care from people who care.
Hello, today we are here at the Outreach Teen and Family Services office. We're your podcast hosts, Jackie and Gina, and we're here today with Sydney Schwartz.
Hi everyone, happy to be here.
And today we are going to be discussing the 6 dimensions of wellness.
As always, to start, we're going to do some Fast 5 questions. So, Jackie, Sydney, what is your favorite music genre?
I would probably say like indie pop.
I have to agree with that. I also like R&B. SZA's my favorite artist.
Same. I love SZA. But yeah, I love a good pop song. If it's catchy, it's catchy.
So true, so true. Also, do you like to cook at home or eat out?
I would probably say I'm bad at cooking, so eat out.
Yeah, if I had unlimited money, I would eat out every day.
No, me too, for sure. I want to get better at cooking at home, though.
Yeah, I need to learn.
Yeah, it's getting to that point.
I just get impatient, and I've been blessed with a good roommate who knows how to cook, and she cooks a lot of our meals when I want something of substance, and I don't know what I'm going to do without her next year, honestly. Okay, iced coffee or hot coffee?
Definitely iced.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I feel like hot coffee can be really fun. Only in the winter, though.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
freezing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of crazy if you drink hot coffee
in the summer. Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but that's kind of scary. It's already hot enough.
It's actually a hot take.
Yeah. No pun intended.
No. Phone calls or texts?
I would probably say texting.
Yeah, same. I don't like talking on the phone to strangers. It gives me anxiety for some reason. I don't if I have to call the eye doctor or something. I'm stressed the whole time waiting for them to pick up.
Same. I'm awful on the phone.
What? That's my favorite part. Sometimes,
really?
Yeah. Yes, sometimes I'll do an accent.
plan out what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Wait, what did you say?
I have to plan out what I'm gonna say.
Yes, same. Or
That's
calling
so
for
fair.
a pizza order. I need to make sure I have everything down.
That's so fair. I love FaceTime though. I love to call and talk for hours, especially if there's a little scenario going on. Call me. I need to know what's going down.
True. I FaceTime my mom at school all the time. She can't get rid of me.
I do that with my mom too.
Okay, so then work remotely or in person?
This kind of varies. I think for college, I love in-person classes because you can really understand things a lot better. Mm-hmm. But job-wise, I'm big on working remote.
Yes. Okay.
I feel like I want kind of a happy medium.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's
I think there's a good balance. For school, I would agree. I don't get work done very well in remote settings. I think I don't have the discipline. I get distracted very easily.
Yeah, COVID was a hot mess.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
For sure.
We would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for being our annual sponsor for the 3rd year of our podcast.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Before we get into the podcast's main topic for today, we wanted to get to know Sydney a little more. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sydney.
All right. I'm a senior at the University of Pittsburgh currently.
Wow.
I'm studying psychology, and I'm also working towards a certificate in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. I'm not currently doing any research or working on campus. So I graduate this year, and post-grad, I plan on just getting more experience in the field. I feel like within psychology, I like a lot of different types of psychology, so it's been hard for me to kind of pinpoint where I want to start. But I'd say my main interests are social and developmental psychology.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
yeah, as of right now, I'm going to take a gap year, maybe go to grad school someday, but taking it day by day, kind of.
I feel like we can all relate to that for
sure.
So do you have any future career goals for yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, ideally?
That's kind of a loaded question. Sometimes I try not to think about it, but I don't know how long the grad program would be, but I know that I want to go into therapy, I think.
Yeah.
So I was thinking either a master's in social work or a master's in mental health counseling.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to decide between the two, but yeah, and then a schedule where I can work remote sometimes and in person in an office.
That's the ideal setting,
for
sure.
Agreed. I want to go into the same thing. Right now I just applied to programs for mental health counseling, and that's definitely the goal. But I think therapy is nice with that, where you really can, especially if you work on your own practice, you can really create your schedule. You can decide how many clients am I seeing in person, how many am I doing telehealth now, because that's so big. So it is really nice to be able to build your schedule.
For sure. I'm also in the process of trying to figure that out. I applied to grad schools, but it's the same thing where I feel like I need more experience. Even though I applied to them, I just don't know how to feel about it, or if, I'll get in, which is totally fine, because I think we're so young at this point, and
for sure.
a lot of the programs that I applied to, I was the youngest person, and so that intimidated me a lot. But ideally, I would love to go to grad school and then graduate and then, live on my own.
Yes, for sure. Get there, the rent.
Yeah, no, for real.
Okay, so today's topic is wellness, and wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis in order to better your physical and mental health. Specifically, we want to talk about the 6 dimensions of wellness, which are occupational, emotional, physical, spiritual, social, and intellectual. So we want to start with occupational wellness, and it's important to have a healthy work-life balance and focus on career growth through exploration and pursuing opportunities that you truly enjoy. So, Sydney, how do you plan to use tools you've learned within your major or just in experiences outside of school to develop healthy occupational wellness?
I feel like work-life balance is such a hard thing. I feel like a lot of people talk about it, and I mean, some people even said that it's not good to use the word balance per se, because I feel like everyone has different needs when it comes to social and occupational needs. So me personally, I'm kind of a social butterfly. Social events kind of fuel me, so I try my best to keep the balance. Sometimes it definitely gets hard.
How do you think time management plays into all of that? Balancing your life? Do you plan or anything like that, and helping you organize?
Oh yeah, I have a planner. I'm pretty good at it. I have color coded. I have
genuinely a skill, because every time I try and get into a planner, I can't keep up with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you color code and stuff?
I do color code,
yes.
And even when I have plans with friends, it's whatever color I feel feels
the vibes.
The vibes of the plans. But yeah, I write down everything. I have I always buy the planner that's kind of way too expensive probably with all the stickers so that I can make it look extra.
Did you
fancy.
see the big planners that are super thick? It is 365 days and it has everything mapped out life goals and stuff. It's so crazy. A lot of teachers use it, but I want it so badly.
I've never seen that.
And I'll have to send it to you because I feel like you would really like it.
That's really interesting. Mine has also weird holidays in it. But yeah, that definitely helps keep me organized. I write every day. I write just my classes in order of the how they go in the week, and I star things that I need to do before other things. I try not to. I have a habit of doing smaller, easier tasks first, even though they're due later, and that's something that I have to work on with time management, because I always think that I don't need as much time as I do for certain assignments. Which is hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving into our next dimension, physical wellness. It's the idea of eating healthy, improving sleep quality, and avoiding harmful habits. Do any of these concepts stand out to you? And if so, how are they implemented into your lifestyle?
I would say it's hard to eat healthy, one.
Yeah.
In college, it's so hard because that kind of goes with time management. Sometimes I feel I have an assignment, and it's sad to say, but sometimes I feel I prioritize doing work over, going out and getting a good meal and spending time with my roommates to I don't know, just sit down and eat somewhere.
I think that's where the cooking comes in too.
Yeah.
Like learning how to do that.
Especially cooking takes time too. Like
yes.
I didn't know how long it took, and that sounds bad because like obviously I watched my mom like cook my whole life. But doing it yourself is like kind of tough, and you have to balance like. Sometimes I'll make a meal and one thing will be hot before the other thing, and like that's the worst because you're like, do I just eat the potatoes now and like the chicken later, or like
so bad. Every time I cook rice, my rice is always cold, and then the chicken's like 10 minutes behind.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I got into making tacos. That's like as extravagant as I get, and it's not even extravagant. I get like one of the like kits from like Giant Eagle.
Those are the best.
It is so like. I've done it so many times now that I have the time down, but the first time I did it, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure that I preheat the oven for the taco shell so that it, like, is ready to put it in, so that, like, the meat is getting done, and then that's fun. And I'm just not good at that type of stuff. I guess it takes practice.
It really does. Yeah. Implementing it into our lives for sure.
For sure.
And like sleep quality too. I just feel like in college it's so terrible. 1 week it'll be fine, and then the next week it's just you're getting no sleep, maybe 2-3 hours.
I've always had to eat like I'm always able to fall asleep immediately, like once my head hits the pillow, which is like
that's so nice.
I know a lot of my friends
so jealous of that.
My friends are always like, how do you do that? But the problem is I do tend to have nightmares. Like pretty bad. Like I think that reflects my daily like mental health, and sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I should like because I don't notice until I'm like having these like vivid dreams, and sometimes I wake up and feel like I didn't get sleep. But I know that I slept, but it's just kind of like stressful sleep, I guess.
That's so crazy. Do you have dreams every night?
Almost every night, yeah.
Same.
What?
Yeah. Do you not dream?
No, I don't dream.
Oh my God, I love the topic of dreams. I think dreams are so interesting.
I have very vivid ones, like and I've also been able to lucid dream too.
Same. So. Usually I can. The worst ones are the nightmares where you can't change things.
Those are scary.
Oh my gosh. And I had like a period right after everything that happened with like Idaho and stuff. When I was living in my apartment at school, I was dreaming or like having horrible dreams every night that would like wake me up at like 3 a.m. like on the dot every single. It was like a routine.
That's scary.
It was so bad, but it was just because of like the anxiety, like you were saying, the things that you deal with during the day that you think like aren't going to affect you even at a time when you're supposed to be sleeping and relaxing, and they do.
I witnessed an accident this year too, like with like cars and pedestrians, and I feel like that's kind of also had an effect, and I didn't realize until the other day I mentioned one of my dreams, and my friend was like, wait, could that be from that? And I was like, possibly, but I had thought like when I'm awake I was like, okay, I'm okay with this, like I've gotten past it, and then when I'm asleep it's just like a different story, I guess.
It's interesting for sure. So kind of going into, because we were talking about the emotions of everything and how they play into sleep and eating habits, so the third tier is emotional wellness, and this centers around self-awareness and coping mechanisms and having a growth mindset. So how do you think that you obtain a positive mindset in your everyday life?
I think the main thing that I've been doing recently is just trying to stay as present as possible.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've noticed recently that I've been like kind of forgetting things people have told me. And I'm like, why could that be? And I think it's because even though I feel like I'm listening to them and I know that I'm looking at them and hearing them talk, sometimes I'm just not there. And I don't even notice sometimes, but I'm thinking about like my next assignment or just graduation. I think this year it's been especially hard because like post-grad and I don't know, just graduating in general, trying to graduate. Make sure my class is like checking my grades constantly. But yeah, I'm just trying to stay present. I also feel like I'm taking a class called Buddhism and Psychology right now.
That's really cool.
And it's like we've learned about like mindfulness and stuff. And I don't know, just learning about it has helped because I'm like, I was already doing some of that before, but to know the benefits of it.
Yeah, I'm taking a counseling class, and my professor is a PsyD, but he's a therapist. He sees clients and he focuses on like mindfulness with his clients. And so every day at the start of class, we do 5 minutes of meditation. And like, I've always been exposed to meditation. Like, my mom loves to do meditation, but I, like, I do it in, like, yoga class or something, but I, like, don't usually, like, sit down and do it by myself in my room. And so it's been really, like, cool. We were even talking the other day in class about how at the beginning of the semester when we started doing that, like, the 5 minutes felt so long because everyone was just kind of sitting there, like, okay, like, we're just all quiet in this room. And then by now, it's, like, it goes by so quick because you really are kind of just, like, calming yourself and getting into it. And it's super interesting.
We meditated in class, and he was like, my professor was saying how it was going to be difficult for some of us, and we did 10 minutes, and, like, he made us write about our thoughts, and people were, like, they actually started, some of them were, like, having panic attacks, like, internally, because they're like, that's the most I've sat in silence. That's another thing, though, too. Like, I see kids walking around, listening to music, and I've tried to, like, kind of limit that, because I've noticed that I love music, and sometimes it does help me emotionally more than other things can, but I think sometimes I use it as a distraction from my thoughts, and I don't always think that that's the best thing.
I agree, for sure. I have, like, recently tried to, either on, like, one way of my walk, either to class or back to class, I don't put my AirPods in for my walk, and I try and just, like, walk and, like, take everything in, because, like, my friends always make fun of me because they'll pass me on the street and they'll be like, you're so zoned in. Like, I always think that you, like, looked at me, and then, like, I get next to you, I'm like, and I'm not seeing you. Like, you're not making eye contact with me. And I'm like, I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I just, like, the music's in my ears, and I just, like, zone. It's like autopilot walking to class. And so I've, like, again, I realized that, like, okay, well, that, sometimes you don't need to be having, like, constructive thoughts, like, at all times. Sometimes that's okay. I can just walk to class and be in the zone. But it also is, like, really nice sometimes to just, like, be present and, like, watch, especially on nice days, like, actually hear the sounds around me, like, pay attention to, like, myself walking home. And it is, like, a class in meditation almost, like, being able to, like, pull your thoughts back in even when you're not distracting yourself, like, and I don't know, it's been really cool, so. So do you have any tips, like, for, like, coping? Like, how do you cope, I guess, when you're anxious or you're stressed in your week?
That's a good question. I feel like I just tell myself, like, sometimes out loud, that, I've been anxious before, and, like, I've gotten through it before.
Yeah.
Like, as cliche as that sounds, it kind of just, like, there's been worse anxiety in my past that I've gotten through.
Yeah.
Like, I've been anxious that I, for some reason, like, won't graduate, but I know that that's not true, and so I'll just say, like, the work's going to get done. Like, regardless of if it's weighing on me right now, like, it's gonna get done because it has to. Because, like sometimes also, like, using some type of discipline, just being like, okay. Or, like, I'd say, like, if I have a lot of work, a good mechanism that I use is just making it as enjoyable as possible. Like, I won't go to the same study spot I always go to. I'll try, like, a new coffee shop, and I'll buy myself a coffee, and I'll, like, sit down and be like, you have to do this. So.
Yeah.
I think that's a great tip to be very useful, because I find myself being in the same spot all of the time, trying to get everything done, and then I associate with that's my workplace. And, just going to a different coffee shop, I think, is so important, and finding different locations so that, you don't have this, like, core association, like, oh, this is homework, this is so awful. But I had very similar thoughts with anxiety and, post-graduation. I was just telling Maggie this earlier, like, I'm taking, like, a lab right now, and it's so stressful with coding and stuff. And, I just broke down because I just didn't think I was going to graduate solely from this one class. But, we're going to get through it because the work is going to get done.
Yes. I like it.
With that, how do you define, like, self-awareness and, being present within reality and all of those fun little things?
How do I define it?
Yeah. Yeah. What is self-awareness, Sydney?
Just putting yourself, I feel like putting yourself, like, not the opposite of, like, the center of, like, I guess, like, you're aware of yourself, but also you're aware of how you're interacting with the world, not just like aware of your thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, I guess awareness of the physical more than the mental too, like everything.
I totally agree with that. I think we just need to be more conscious with reality instead of like letting our subconscious kind of take over. And I think that's where a lot of negative thoughts can come in, and just again being present with like your feelings and your desires that you want to achieve at the end of the day, like getting those assignments, you know. That's the biggest goal right now. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think for me it helps a lot with processing my emotions because I overthink a ton, and I get very easily overwhelmed because maybe I should plan more, like we were talking about, but I make these like mental checklists, and in my mind it seems so overwhelming. It seems like I have so much to do, and it's like it takes me like removing myself from the situation and like looking at it from an outside perspective to be like, okay, like, you do these things every week. You always have a discussion board. Like, you can do it. It doesn't take that much. Last week it only took you like 45 minutes. You just have to sit down and like do it. And like, but it takes that like extra step of like removing myself and like the emotions in it to move forward.
And not like over analyzing.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo, so that is big in my life. And so sometimes it can be really harmful, but just not, you know, thinking about everything and just thinking that, you know, some things that you're doing are wrong, and just kind of learning to appreciate like who you are as an individual and grow from that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to pause and thank St. Clair Health for their generosity in sponsoring the 3rd season of Teens Tap In.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together by creating reliable resources that recognize all of our neighbors, with access to the highest quality healthcare, advanced care close to home, and a shared humanity that delivers on our joint vision to create a healthier community for all. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
All right, so moving into our second half of the podcast, we wanted to dive into the rest of the 3 dimensions of wellness and also have Sydney share some advice for everybody listening. So we wanted to focus on the ladders of spiritual, social, and intellectual that are personalized to fit one's needs to increase well-being and help us thrive, not just survive. So before we dive into the second half, we're curious, Sydney, if you have a favorite dimension so far of wellness.
So far, I would probably say emotional wellness. I think because I'm in psychology, that's kind of obvious, but I think that has a lot of importance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I also like physical because I think that it reminds you that of the connection between physical and emotional, and how the actions that you take every day, even something small like going to bed at 11 instead of 10 or something, like that affects your full well-being and your ability to then maybe have like good emotional responses the next day or something like that. So I think that was what stood out to me so far.
I have to agree with everything, kind of what we talked about mindfulness. We didn't talk about this yet, but we'll be diving into it, which is spiritual wellness. I am very holistic and I love tarot card reading, and
my mom does tarot readings and I love getting them done.
I love that stuff. I check my horoscope every single day. There's this girl, it's called House of Virgo. I watch it every single night, and she just kind of tells you different outcomes. And so my biggest fear is not knowing what the next day holds. And like that was my biggest challenge, like growing up with my anxiety. I was just, oh my God, what's today going to be like? Yeah. And so with this, I think it helps me like better center myself and understand like it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I like that. So the first topic, kind of going off of that we're going to be talking about in the second half is spiritual wellness. And spiritual wellness involves the expansion of one's purpose or meaning. So while this can include things like religion, it doesn't have to, and it can also include things such as spending time in nature, appreciating music or art, and journaling. So Sydney, what are some ways that you allow yourself to expand your spiritual wellness?
I definitely spend a lot of time in nature. It's hard when you live in Pennsylvania because
Yes.
it's been
Yeah.
freezing out.
Mhm.
But this kind of goes with physical wellness, but I try to go on runs and I'll try to pick like the most scenic parts of Shenley.
Yes.
And that's always super fun. And just like, I don't know, just examining like the little things, like little animals, like
Gotta touch
like,
some grass.
it kind of
Yeah.
makes you feel like bigger, but also like really small at the same time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps with perspective and kind of like self-awareness, what we were talking about.
That makes me think of like the first day of, fake spring, like the first day where it's warm on campus and everyone's outside. Like you can barely find a spot on the grass, like in Kathy or at like any lawn that you go to, and it's like my favorite time of year because everyone's just so excited to be able to go outside and, like you said, touch some grass. And
That's
just,
so
like,
important.
just like breathe it in. It's like only like 60 degrees, but it was so cold, so that feels so warm, and people are like tanning in the lawn, and it's just like it's just great.
I feel like it brings the community together as well.
It's healing.
You see some faces that you don't always
It's
see.
true.
That's definitely what drew me to Pitt, like just seeing everyone interact and like just seeing that everyone decided to go outside when it was nice, you
right.
know, like
Mhm.
I feel like that doesn't always happen. There's
Yeah.
like
No.
but it's like everyone swarms. And then another part of spiritual wellness, I think maybe it would be under this category of wellness, but I'm trying to be better at this, but it's hard with having time with school. But I play the guitar and I sing.
Ooh, yeah.
I kind of am teaching myself though, so like I've been a beginner on the guitar for like years, but I've always like sang. But I don't know, music has just been kind of a way for me
Yeah.
to be
That's
spiritual
awesome.
in some ways.
For sure. I feel like a lot of people can relate on that. As we were like talking about earlier, music is just so prevalent in our lives, and I feel like a lot of songs and artists that come out there, and you know, the lyrics are so impactful and meaningful, and when you find that song that you can just relate to,
Yes.
Like to its core.
yeah,
Yes.
you
Like
are
there's not
belting
one
that.
lyric that's like you can't relate to. That's the best
Yeah,
feeling
it's the
ever.
best feeling. And like every phase of your life, like you'll go through. I feel like for me, I'm a big Taylor Swift person, and so
Oh, me
like
too.
her music is so like.
You should
And
see her
there's a
lock
song
screen.
for there's a song for every emotion and everywhere you're at. And like my thing with Taylor Swift is like, I think that you can't truly appreciate her until you find the song that you resonate with.
Yeah.
And once you find that song, like everything will be unlocked because like it is just like there's a song for everything.
Sometimes it
And,
doesn't
like,
feel like music with
Yes,
her. Like I don't know how to
yes.
describe it, but that's like when people are like, "Oh, you like her music?" I'm like, "Yeah," but like
yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I relate to it on like a completely deeper
Yeah,
level.
her like I mean, because her lyrics are like poetry. Like a lot of like her songs, I think people don't necessarily understand because
I don't.
the
I
things
don't
that
like
are on
Taylor
the
Swift.
radio. Okay, do you
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't
You don't like fun?
No, it's fine. That's weird. No. But I think that like, I think that it honestly like a lot of the songs that people listen to on a normal basis of hers are like the ones that are on the radio that are just like catchy pop tunes that like get overplayed and then it's just like okay, next. Like, but if you listen to some of her deep stuff, like the lyrics, they get you. Or at
Can
least
you
they get
drop
me.
a song that we should listen to?
Oh gosh, well, what do we want to be?
Yeah.
Those are usually when I
Like betrayal or
yes.
Okay.
I think one of her best like songwriting, like My Tears Ricochet, is probably one of the most like heart wrenching.
that one.
Like Illicit Affairs, like the bridge of Illicit Affairs, like
Anything on
I was-
folklore, honestly.
yeah, honestly, the folklore album. If you take the time to actually like, I like to like read the lyrics because it's really like once you get the lyrics down, it just makes it 10 times better.
Hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really trying not to chime in on this episode. But I have to say one thing about Taylor Swift. I really feel like for so many of her fans, it's like therapy.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you're really able
for
to
sure.
connect in a way that you can connect with yourself and
Yes,
with others
yeah.
and know you're not alone. And she does such a good job of putting words to emotions and complex emotions, like feeling multiple emotions at once.
Yeah.
In a way that we relate to.
Yeah.
My favorite song by her is Seven. It's my favorite song, like
It's a really good
like
song.
ever. But I think the part that gets me with that, it's like kind of like It's kind of like therapy, yeah, because it talks a lot about childhood, and I feel like, I don't know, that's something that I've always wanted, like, a connection to. I guess that would kind of be spirituality
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, connecting back to your younger self through, like, nature. That's what that song is, pretty much. So.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, even in, like, going to Evermore now, away from folklore, like, like Marjorie. Yes. Marjorie, like, I have, like, a full body, like, reaction.
Yeah,
like, I hear the first note and I start crying. Like, I just get, like, so...
The bridge of that song is just unbelievable.
But again, it's like,
I'm taking the step.
It really is, like, it really is, like, this, like, spiritual connection, and, like, that one talks about, like, her grandmother who passed away, and, like, her feeling she didn't have enough time, and so, for me, like, I, like, do feel like I connect to that, and, like, that, like, loss of time with people as you get older, like, they're getting older. So that's why I have, like, a visceral reaction, but at the same time, like,
it helps with the grieving process.
Yes, it does. Like, when you, again, it, like, reminds you that you're not alone. Like, someone, like that, like, is making a song so they relate to it, but then also, like, look at all the other people that relate to it and are appreciating it. So, again, like, it's very spiritual, so... I could talk about her forever, so...
Let's move on.
We should ask our listeners, should we do a Taylor Swift episode?
True.
Ooh.
And, like,
trying to make Jackie...
Jackie, I'll come instead of Jackie.
Yes.
I'll come back.
Thank you.
You're always welcome back. We could, like, depict songs and...
True.
That'd be interesting.
Dissect them.
Well, at the end of the episode, we have to make Jackie like at least one song.
Oh God. Okay. Oh,
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I really have always tried to get into it, but I just don't understand.
I feel like a lot of people can relate to that though.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is like, because people are so strongly like Taylor Swift. Like, I try and separate it where, like, I love her music, but, like, she's just a person. Like, to me, where some people, like
separate the music from the artist.
Yeah, like, like, it's a lot. Like, there's a deep connection for people. And again, I think it's probably, like, that spiritual connection. Just connect to her music. But when you don't, I really think it is. Like, you either love her or you're just like, I really don't get it. Like, I don't. And, like, I know, I have friends like that, too. But, yeah.
That's crazy.
I feel like I could get you there though.
Me too.
Oh no! Oh no!
What are you signing up for?
So our fifth dimension is social wellness, which centers around having and building positive relationships, and communication is very prominent within this by optimizing our sense of belonging and support. So, Sydney, would you consider yourself more introverted or extroverted?
I would definitely say extroverted. But with that, I would say I kind of strive to be more introverted, which sounds interesting. But I guess kind of sometimes I feel like I just say yes because I know that I'll have like a good time. And like I said before, like I like being social. But sometimes I do feel like I could benefit from staying in some nights, you know? And I feel like I kind of need more discipline with that. Like, I feel like I would use the words extroverted to kind of like a fault because I'll let myself get too tired and I don't know. Everyone has a social battery, and sometimes I feel like even if mine's like more full than others to begin with, like I still sometimes drain it to the point of like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of like that. I feel like for me, I've gone through phases specifically in my like college career where I've either been like super extroverted and like ready for anything and excited, and then like after I have that for too long, then I like go into my shell and I'm like, I'm sick of this. Like, I never want to have alcohol again. I don't want to see. I just want to sit in my bed and like rot away. And then I do that for too long, and it's like the extremes.
Yeah.
So I honestly like, I do feel like you have to find a balance, like, because it is great to be able to like find comfort in yourself, and like I do think that like that's a positive trait that I have, but at the same time sometimes it's like this like hyper independence, and I'm way too comfortable with myself in my peace that I don't break out of that enough because I'm too scared of breaking that peace.
I cannot relate. I feel like, and I'm kind of scared because graduation means, I mean, I'm living in the same place next year, but one of my roommates is moving out, but I know that I'm eventually going to have to live on my own, like, fairly soon, and I gotta I gotta do better at finding comfort with myself, or just being able to entertain myself.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's just so much easier when there's someone around, because they can make the decision for you. And like, I have trouble with decision making, like where to eat, what to do, like planning activities for us to do. So I feel like I need to start doing that with myself. Over vacation, I was really happy though, because like on the flight, I didn't end up downloading anything, and I actually I finished a book, which I haven't done in like too long of time for me to say. But it was like, oh, I like reading. Like, I forgot how much I liked it. I actually read, I was finishing I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have listened to some of it, like I've heard read some of it. I haven't gotten all the way through, but it is so interesting.
It really is.
And now that Nickelodeon documentary just came out, and
what
I'm
is that
interested.
on? I've been wanting to watch that.
What is it? HBO Max. Yeah, HBO
It's just
Max.
Max
It's
now.
on Max. Oh yeah, it's on Max. It's just Max. All caps Max. But yes, that's what it's on. I forgot. Yeah, my roommate borrowed my account and watched it, and we were gonna watch it together, but she gets so excited and which is fine. But I'm kind of like, I don't have the attention span to like sit down and binge shows. Like, I need to like take my time and finish one show before I start another, even though they don't relate.
You know what's really funny? Jeanette actually came to my old school, and she like went on and talked about her book and everything. And so I saw a bunch of Snapchat stories of them all there, and I was like, if I was
She came here.
Did she really?
Yeah, I went to see her here.
When? What?
Last school year? Yeah.
Yes.
Now they're having Ross Lynch come.
I know, I
It's
saw
awesome.
that. My friend really wants to go. She's very excited, but she doesn't go to Pitts. She's like, "Can I steal your ID?" Because you have to like.
It would work.
I think it would. I mean, I've never been
I think
to
they
one of
look
those
that
things,
closely.
but, I don't know. So then, I mean, you kind of touched on this, but how do you think that your like level of extrovertedness like plays into you building your support systems?
I think I've always had the ability to just instantly open up, even if others weren't. Like, I just have a level of trust. And so I feel like that's really helped, just being social and being so trusting in the beginning. That's really helped form really strong relationships for me, and I like feel really lucky actually. And like, I've had conversations with some of my just closer friends, with some of the friends we're not so close to, because like I live with my roommates, and just hearing like their perspective versus like just, I don't know, hearing the roommate dynamics in other households versus mine, I just feel like extremely lucky sometimes.
That's awesome.
No, that's really nice. There's so many horror stories of roommates. And so I feel like, honestly, I feel like your story is the first one that I've heard where the dynamic is so good that I'm very envious
We're not
of that.
afraid to like go up to each other and just be like, so why didn't you take out the trash? It's not like mean. It's just like, and like if
you need to be able to do that.
And I think what I tell myself is like, to a certain extent, if your friends are reacting bad to things like that, like, are they really like good friends? Like, I'm not just like discounting them completely. Like, they could be having a bad day, but it's like just being understanding, and communication is so important. And if somebody's consistently communicating with you and you're just like coming back with, tense energy, I feel like you don't need that other person.
Very fair. And I also think it's like important too that like some friends are not meant to be your roommates. Like it's just like sometimes there's certain friend dynamics that don't work when you're like constantly together. And that doesn't mean that like it has to be a friendship that you throw away. It just means, okay, now I know I shouldn't live with you. And
that's
like,
happened with
okay,
roommates. Like, I did have, they weren't horror stories, but it was just situations where it just wasn't good like energy in the household, and now I see them and I'm like, okay, well, like, how are you? Do you want to get lunch sometime?
Exactly.
I like it. You kind of touched on this with communication and your directness within like your household. So how do you think those implement into building? How do you think you provide support and building relationships that you currently have?
I think I provide friends with what they need, and I was gonna say because I provide a listening ear, but sometimes they need more than that, and it's about like just understanding where they're coming from and what they need in that moment. I feel like I also do a really good job of like like favors. Just like I do a lot of housework and giving rides, and I feel like that's just a way for me to show my love for them, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will say you are a really great listener, and I feel like whenever we talk and stuff, we always just hear each other out.
Yeah, definitely. I felt the same way.
I feel like too that is important when you have a friendship. Like my one friend and I just had a really long conversation the other week about like, okay, like do I just need a listener or do I need you to like give me
Tell me
an
straight
answer?
up.
Yeah, because sometimes it is really like there's a clear difference, and sometimes you are looking for advice or you are looking for an answer, and sometimes you're not, and you just want to be able to complain and then be done and get it out there, and then you're good.
Right.
And it is not fun when someone comes back to you and like has to play the devil's advocate, and which, you know, like I hate
like that.
and like I always like I pride myself in being like a very like
don't do this to me.
I think I'm a very like straightforward person. Like my friends would say I'm like very honest. Like if they want to like go to someone and be like, okay, like I need you to tell me how it is, like I will be that person. But because of that, like I think it's also like they don't necessarily always want to come to me when it's something that they just want to like be upset about because they're worried that I'm gonna be like, well, like
I've just started...
is that what she meant though? And then like it's like I just want to be mad, like let me be mad. And so like we had to have like a conversation about that, and I was like, please like just tell me, like at the beginning of the conversation, be like, okay, like I just want you to listen, like I just want to rant real quick, and then be like, okay, and then I'll just sit there and I'll just listen. And I think it is like part of that like future therapist in me, like half of me wants to be like, so are we coming at this from the right like perspective? But then it's like sometimes it doesn't matter, like sometimes things just happen and we just want to talk about it and move on. And
I think complaining can be very healthy.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like we should stop making it so taboo that like asking those questions, like what do you want from me, like that's just good communication. If you, whether you're asking or they're telling you. But I have had situations where it's instant advice, and it sounds so simple when they say it too, because you know there's an easy fix. But sometimes like you lack motivation too, and like it's deeper than just the situation. It's like your mental state too, like being piled on top of that and being like, well, I just can't move right now. Like I just need to like sit here, and that's also hard. Or like, you know, when you're already crying about a situation and they give you a piece of advice and you're like, well, right now I can't go see this person because my eyes are swollen from crying, and it's like I just need, don't give me like let me sit here for like just a little bit longer and then I'll handle it.
Well, it's very interesting. I was actually in a professional development training this past week for like motivational interviewing, which is a framework, like a therapeutic framework, and they started off the training by saying, rarely does a response make things better, connection does. So it really highlights the importance of someone has to feel heard and how they're feeling in that moment before they're going to accept anything else.
I really like that quote now.
It's going to resonate with me.
Yeah, I'm going to like write that one down actually.
So our last wellness is intellectual wellness, and it focuses on expanding knowledge, creativity, and curiosity. So aside from school, what outside projects or opportunities do you think have helped you expand your learning?
I guess they kind of relate to school, but I'm in psychology club at school, and that's been really fun because it's allowed me to form a lot of connections with people in my field, and I feel like that was my goal with my gap year. It's just meeting new people, and like even if it doesn't directly relate to psych, there's a lot of like psych is just so broad that like you can easily, I feel like, do something in another field and connect it back to our our field. Like I feel like that's been so easy for me to do. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other projects. I like volunteer opportunities are always nice.
Those are pretty important for sure. I would say definitely being a part of outreach is one of the biggest opportunities here. Love you guys. But it's definitely helped me expand and explore like other areas of psychology, because like what you were saying, it's so broad and it can be overwhelming at times because you have no idea like what you want to do like post-grad with this. And so I felt like being given this opportunity has just like helped me have a growth mindset and, you know, just learn to be able to be okay of not knowing what I want to do yet. And that's fine, you know. And I feel like we're always told like we need to figure out what is our path, but you can just figure it out as you go. So
yeah. I like that. And then how do you think these opportunities impact your mental health?
But now I'm thinking deeper about the question, and I was thinking about also just reading books about something you're interested in.
Yeah.
Like if you all of a sudden have an interest or you have like a fixation of the month, like watching TV and books is educational.
Sure. Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, going on YouTube deep dives. Like, do you guys ever do that?
Yeah, all the
like,
time.
Just like you're learning about, I don't know. I didn't do this, but I'm just saying like historical events. I don't know.
For sure.
Just
my current obsession is Megan Fox on Call Her Daddy. She talks about a lot of what's it called? I can't even think. Well, she talks about her book that she wrote, which I really want to read.
I didn't know she wrote a book.
Oh my god, it's so good. I forget what it's called. Wish I could plug it, but I really want to know what it is. But she just talks about trauma and just past relationships, and I felt like that is a big part of me developing into who I am and just kind of learning to accept that. And she also, astrology. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. Oh, pretty boys are poisonous. Yes. Yes. Oh my god.
That's a good title.
Right? And it's red and stuff, and she was wearing red, and she just really, she came on.
And like pretty and poisonous, like that sounds good together.
Yeah, it does. I saw a clip of her talking about how she's learned a lot about like her feelings of like being an outsider, and she feels like she puts that label on herself, like she's an outsider, and then when she doesn't get that label back and people say she's fitting into the mold, she's like, what are you talking about? Like I don't, you know. And I think that's super interesting because a lot of times we do like isolate ourselves, whether that's because of past experiences like she was talking about, or just like in general like a fear or like a feeling of disconnect. Like we think that we're so on the outside, and in reality like a lot of times we're not.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. She was going off about, you know, her being an outsider, and I felt like I really resonated with that because just even in high school and in college, I have these friend groups and everything, but I always felt like I had one foot in and one foot out. And so that can make you feel very isolated, and which has made me a little more introverted than I would like to be. Because I used to be more extroverted, but just with like the chain of events that have happened, I've learned to be more like independent, and I keep to myself a little bit more now. But
so like from like intellectual wellness, I feel like we're just always learning. I mean, you're learning from others' experiences, you're learning about your own experiences through that, and you're learning new coping mechanisms.
For sure. So Sydney, what advice would you like to give your younger self who wanted to have a better mental health but was unsure where to start?
I think my younger self worried a lot. I know I said I was trusting with others, but I wasn't trusting of others, and I feel like I didn't open up at all, and then all of a sudden it just like did this big switch. So I feel like I would have probably said just putting myself out there more and being vulnerable. And also just not with being vulnerable, if you don't get the reaction that you had planned in your head, to not like freak out and never try to be vulnerable again either. Like, because I feel like that's what I did. I was very closed off for a while. And also just I feel like I said about the advice thing, being told advice was always hard for me, and I'm a very stubborn person. And so I feel like just admitting to yourself that you could benefit from some extra help, like instead of just, because I feel like I would listen to people say, oh, it's, you know, it's always worse for other people, like, which you're not supposed to say those things, because like, but I feel like that's part of where that came from, because I'd be like, well, of course it is, like, I can do it, I just needed extra help, like, you know,
of course,
nobody can do it on their own, so
and even if you can, it takes a load off to have somebody there to support you.
Mhm.
You don't have to do it on your own, or on your own.
For sure. And I think that's one of the hardest parts is just recognizing this. We've talked about this so many times, just, learning to accept that and just finding that help is just the biggest and most important part so that you can ultimately, better everything.
It also helps when another thing I feel like that was hard is like actually recognizing your feelings. Like instead of just feeling, then you've closed off and you don't know how to explain it to other people. But if you slowly start to learn what you're actually feeling, then it's going to be better received in general because you have like words to put to what you're feeling.
Yeah, I love that.
Seriously.
Yeah, I love that. An amazing book, because I know we've been talking about books, is Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. It's a whole book that describes
I've heard of
the
this.
human feelings.
Interesting.
Describes
Let me see if I.
emotions. It's actually really simple way to put it.
I have
You guys
this
feel,
huge.
guys.
I have this huge notes app of books I need to read, and it's like at this point it's like 50, and like I'm gonna have to like I don't even remember why I wrote some of these down, but I do hope post grad to have more time to read.
Yeah.
Atlas of the Heart, you said.
Yep.
That's awesome.
You'll have time to really tap into that part of wellness.
That's just what I need.
Yeah. Intellectual part.
Lastly, this podcast would not be possible without the support of St. Clair Health. Please listen to the following ad.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Thank you to all of our listeners for your support, and thank you, Sydney, for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
If you're interested in learning more about Outreach's counseling services and educational program, check out their website at outreachteen.org. Also, we'd love to hear from our listeners. Reach out with episode ideas or feedback at podcast@outreachteen.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed in the Teens Tap In podcast represent the opinions of the hosts and their guests. The views and opinions expressed by Outreach Teen and Family Services employees, donors, and volunteers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Outreach Teen and Family Services or the show's sponsors. The content here should not be taken as counseling advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is unique, please consult your mental health provider or physician for any mental health counseling or other medical questions. The podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including, but not limited to, establishing a standard of care in a legal sense, or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast. If you find any error in any of the content of the podcast, please contact us at podcasts@outreachteen.org. Outreach Teen and Family Services, its sponsors, donors, and partners expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages whatsoever arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Please go to www.outreachteen.org to see the complete notice and disclaimer for the podcast episodes.